All right, let's get this started. So, my name is Miles Pastrick, and for the topic that I'll be going over, I wanted to go over a lot of the key terms in Chapter 6 that I thought was like really important. I know that there are like a lot of topics, but I thought I could go over some of the stuff that I thought that I really learned and like what interested me throughout the chapter, just because I feel like that'd be easier to branch off for my time limit rather than just talk about one topic. I do not have any sort of camera because I have a PC. I don't have a laptop, so it doesn't come with a camera. And I really don't feel comfortable going out into public and getting a camera because the only time I prefer to go out is when I'll be working. So, besides the point, there's not really much going on in the background right now. It's pretty late, trying to keep my voice down, but I'm just sitting at my computer and we'll get this started right away. So, a lot of chapter 6 had to do with like validity and how like surveys really work because I thought like learning about the topics of surveys is really interesting because honestly we see it all the time. I go on YouTube a lot, and before a video would start, we would sometimes there might be an ad and there's a quick survey. It might ask, what movie have you seen recently, or what restaurants do you prefer to go to within my area? And just to get rid of it real quick, I just click whatever and then I just move on. And I mean, I'm guilty of that, but that just shows the true validity of like these surveys. Um, one of the things that I thought was most interesting and really like blew my mind away was the neutral choices and how like um effective it is, or at least how not effective it is. It was really effective when I was reading into it because the term for it was fence sitting, and it's basically right here around page 161, where with uh, a survey having uh, uh, strongly disagree and strongly agree, you can see there's this neutral choice right here, and I have it's like a fence sitting. It's exactly what it sounds like because you sit there and just stay neutral rather than trying to choose strongly agree and strongly disagree. And I feel like this really messes up how accurate you can use your information. Because if a lot of people would just put neutral for your questionnaire, like what are you going to do with that? I mean, I'm not sure what I would be able to do with that. And like playing it safe, I feel like even I've done it because for when you fill out a survey after you're done filling out your resume for a job, it's going to have usually those really long quizzes. I'm sure lots of people have taken those. It's like 100 questions, and it's you feel like you're really strong when it comes to dealing with customers in a situation. Strongly disagree to strongly agree. Some people might not be sure, so they put neutral. But if you would take that away, then you can at least find some sort of like side. You can see that they would either be agreeing with it or they would be disagreeing with it. And that just blew me away. I just thought that was really interesting. Another topic that I really thought was cool when it comes to the surveys is the whole observing part of surveys. With it kind of was reminiscent with how do I put it? Basically, when you observe something rather than intervene, I feel like for a survey that would be like much more valid. It's kind of not really much of a survey if you were to observe, as when you're doing research through observing, I feel like you can find um, more valid answer, just because um, it's kind of like the bystander effect. Just because it depends on the situation. If someone was put into a certain situation, then they might act differently. But if you observe it and you watch them do it and watch how they react, if they might not even do it. They might not even help out. Like they see someone on the floor, and then like you just observe and see what they might do. It's just interesting. It's kind of hard to explain. I'm still trying to go through it as I read through chapter 6, but Another thing that I read before the research through observing was the faking good and bad. Now, this I remember through one of our um, researches that we looked over. Basically, it had to do with it was the group. It was a group of people where one person was manipulated, or no, one person was not manipulated because all the other people were in on it, and they had all these random like questions, and they were really basic, really easy, and it's like which chart is taller, this one, or this one. And obviously, the person who was put into it, he's gonna say, "Oh yeah, obviously this." And before he goes, all the other people that are manipulated say, "Oh, this one's bigger." And this kind of, I feel like, has to kind of relate with faking good and bad because faking good is kind of like, well, you're conforming to what other people's opinions are. So if you see that other people are picking see like if they're giving an unpopular opinion, it's not really much of an opinion, but they're saying for their answer, oh, even though I know that this one is short, I'm still going to give that answer. So they're saying, oh, okay, well, I don't want to look stupid, even though they probably know it's an easy question. That you should know that this one is longer than this one. So obviously, you should pick the other one, but everyone else is picking that one, so you conform to what they're saying. And I think that with putting that into the faking good with surveys, it just blew me away. I know I said that before, but it's when you read about these kinds of things in psychology, it's so basic sounding, but and it sounds like something that you would hear every day, but you don't really think about it unless like you're doing stuff like this, you're doing actual research. And when you really look into it about like faking good or double barrel questions or validity and the research through observing, I think it's interesting just learning about how the validity of um, a self-taken survey or observing without being biased. I think that going over all these topics, it's a really big impact to what we can define as to what is valid and what needs to be researched on more. So yeah, those were pretty much some of the things that I thought was really interesting in chapter six. Um, I really hope that I get to look into more kinds of stuff that has to do with validity and how research can become more useful to society rather than BuzzFeed quizzes, because at this point I feel like they're just jokes. And looking at more important research surveys like the one that Amy posted on the discussion, I think those will with improving those studies validities, then I feel like psychology can become a lot bigger part of our studies